A second?
Thank you. You have before you the policy review, the draft operating and capital reserve policy. The Finance Committee has already gone through this. We've reviewed it and tweaked it with direction from our CAO and our acting town treasurer, Ms. Esty. So I'm going to go to, would you like to go first, Mr. Watson? I'm going to go to Mr. Watson first.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks to Council and to members of the Finance Committee for continuing to support the work to define some clearer and more defined practices around the development and protection of general capital and utility capital reserves for the town. I think those of you that have read the policy and have now seen version 4 with the blue section that we had originally recommended, and then draft reserves policy suggested alternate language for consideration, the piece that's also in your package for this evening, truly have been provided a window into the mind of your acting treasurer and CAO as we work to really refine the language and make sure it's as tight and simple as possible, and that it reflects a restriction to be defining only practices related to reserves and not inadvertently creeping into the other world of borrowing. Now, we also, though, wanted to recognize the balance, as was recommended and discussed at our last committee, the whole meeting, around seeing some balance around reserve development and protection versus borrowing. So, although version 4 is in your package, it does reflect the language we had initially drafted and discussed with the Finance Committee members. However, on reflection, that additional suggested alternate language for consideration is where I would draw your attention. Because I think that is probably the tightest and most appropriate consideration that we have with us tonight. I like this one a lot. It is simpler, as I mentioned. It's more focused on reserves than borrowing. It allows council the opportunity to reconsider how much is allocated to reserves if debt service ratio limits are expected to be exceeded, which does provide the mechanism for a balance between borrowing and reserve development. But that said, if the debt service ratios are below the limit, this policy would direct that the target, and if the targets for reserves have not already been met, this policy would direct that the contribution to reserves is automatic and off the top and in accordance with the policy. But if the debt service ratio is above the limit and the reserve targets have not been met, then council has the opportunity to review how much, if any, should be contributed into reserves in that year. So certainly welcome any further discussion or questions, and Ms. Esty's here obviously to help with the details. I just want to provide that initial review and recommendation on adoption of the policy with the suggested alternate language for consideration embedded within it as final document and ready for promotion to our main agenda with your approval. Thank you, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor, as Chair of the Finance Committee, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and there has been a considerable amount of time on this, and I'd like to thank the Finance Committee, especially Ms. Esty and our CEO for all the time they've spent on this. It's a good policy, and sometimes one policy creates another policy. So we may see another policy coming down the road when it comes to operating and what that what the figures look like and where we want to go with that. And so that'll be down the road. But for today, we just have this operating the reserve policy, and so I would recommend that committee recommends council approve the operating and capital reserve policy as presented and to be ratified.
Thank you.
Under business arising, which we're in right now,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. On the question. I'm just going to speak to it just for a second. I really like that we have this policy coming into play because because we haven't had this in the past, it's been more challenging to plan or to provide for the unexpected. And by having this, I think we're going in with both eyes open. And in meeting yesterday with our MLA and our minister, it's good for them to know that that when we approach them, that we do have our resources in place, that, that we want to be willing and a partner who has some skin in the game. So I'm very supportive of this and really happy to see that this has come about. Councillor Thompson.
I was just going to second that because we are in open session. We're still, okay, thank you.
On the question, please vote. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Item 4B, policy review, next steps, staff report from Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to members of council. Refer your attention to the content of the staff report that just summarizes our recommended next steps with respect to policy development as they pertain to council-approved policies. So those that you have previously identified as being appropriately with council for authority to approve. There's a couple of pieces that are salient, perhaps most salient in that staff report. First, that staff have identified some council-approved policies that really are no longer necessary or effective, or are being incorporated into other policies, or already are represented appropriately in bylaw. So we are recommending that those policies, with council's approval, be repealed completely. And second, staff are requesting guidance from council on which of the remaining council-approved policies should be reviewed first. And that's to help us prioritize the workload and make sure that we're bringing to you recommendations for changes in priority order and making sure the most important or most problematic policies are addressed promptly. So the overall recommendation here is to repeal the list as shown and to direct staff to work in priority order to support council's review of the remaining policies. Knowing that bylaw reviews and the review administration policies continue simultaneously with this work. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Mr. Colburn, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Worship, I'd like to just draw attention to 077 Policy Procedure for Development Officer Variance Procedure approved in 2009. That should be struck from the list because we haven't fully incorporated that into a new procedure policy. It's a draft, but we haven't fully gotten there yet. So that would still need to remain in place. And thank you, Your Worship. 077.
Thank you. On the question, Councillor Thompson.
I was just going to make the motion. I move that the Committee of the Whole recommends that council authorize the repeal of policies and prioritization list of remaining council-approved policies as presented in Table 1 to be ratified under business arising at the next regular meeting.
It's been moved by Councillor Thompson. On the question, Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question on the animal control. I know Mr. Loge spoke to it at the last council meeting, but is it because we're going online? I'm not sure why, and I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but why we're repealing the animal control bylaw. If I could have a brief memory on what the story is on that one. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can refer to Mr. Colburn or invite some background work if required for the Deputy Mayor. My recollection, though, is that animal control is appropriately covered under the animal control bylaw, and therefore a policy is no longer required.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering if the motion should also include what Mr. Colburn had said about excluding that one particular.
Thank you. Can you add that on? And Councillor Thompson, we're going to add to that, to your approval. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, would you reread the motion, please, when you have that in?
Sorry again. Do you want me to read it?
Sure, go ahead.
Committee of the Whole recommends that council authorize the repeal of policies and prioritization list of remaining council-approved policies as presented in Table 1, excluding policy 007 to be ratified under business arising at the next regular meeting.
Thank you. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 5-0. Item 4C is reports. Don't see any comments on those. And clock's not working up there. So will we go back to, do we have to have an adjournment to this? Yeah, have an adjournment, please. Moved by Councillor Olson. On the question,
Just on the question, I'm a little confused of the process here.
We're just adjourning and then going back to close.
We're adjourned. I thought you said earlier we weren't in open.
it was open committee.
Oh, okay. So now we're back in close,
That's right.
and now we're going back to open committee? For these ones?
Yes.
We have to adjourn out of this
Oh,
one.
okay. Okay, I got a little confused. on the
Okay.
process.
On the question, please vote. Motion carried 5-0. We will go back up now to. Sure.
We're gonna probably have time to go back.